Welcome back to the big issue on City 973 and also on City TV. My name is Godfred Akotoboa. We're currently discussing the E-Levy and what it means for you at home who is watching and listening. I've been taking a couple of questions. I will read them to the Deputy Finance Minister, John Kuma, who is here with us. 0549986996, 0550585832. And just to confirm this, the Deputy Finance Minister has told us that what will be presented in Parliament next week is not 1.75. The government's new position on this is 1.5% officially. So the conversation should no longer revolve around a 1.75 E-Levy. It's a 1.5% E-Levy that the government is presenting next week before Parliament. So that is the big one that he has dropped on us. Aside that, he's been trying to explain a couple of things. Well, I will come to Kojo now. Kojo, you've heard the government's position on this. I'm still not getting the rationale behind 1.5 clearly. I will give Mr. Kuma Honorable Kuma another opportunity to explain to us exactly why they are fixated on 1.5. But has he changed your mind in any way as to why we need the E-Levy by Tuesday?
Absolutely not. You see, my brother John Kuma, as he has explained in his earlier submissions, he and I go way back. And, before John became the light heavyweight champion that he is now, he was a welterweight.
Kojo is about to throw a bomb.
No.
And
I'm trying to ask myself what a John Kuma in his days of welterweight would have said about an NDC government doing E-Levy. This E-Levy is coming about because the government has mismanaged the economy. They have borrowed so much money that they are up to their neck in debt. At the last count, and maybe you can correct me, because it keeps going up by the day. They borrowed about 250 plus billion cedis, if I'm wrong. The problem that they are having now is that they have reached the crescendo in amount of money they can borrow. Towards the end of last year, we are all told that they couldn't even go into the commercial markets to borrow anymore. So what they are doing is an expropriation. They are asking you and I in simple language that we want a percentage of your bank account. If you're not going to give it to us, we are going to take it. That is an expropriation. Look, if I put my salary in my bank account, I've paid taxes on it already, haven't I? I've paid PAYE, SNIT, whatever. If it's capital gains, I'm supposed to have paid my tax. My money in my bank account. So I'm using an electronic platform to transfer the money wherever I want. The telcos are taking a service fee from that platform. Your obligation as a government is to tax the telcos, which you do. So why are you now telling us that we should give you 1.75% of order? And see, you need to understand what John Kuma is not telling you is that it is an integral of what they are doing. And if you are doing an integration in arithmetic, it is continuous. It goes on in a continuum. So it's 1.75% or 1.75%.
1.5.
Well, that he's now telling me. So let's just say 1.5% or 1.5% or 1.5%. And it is cumulative. It keeps going on and on and on and on. So basically, they are asking you to integrate from zero to however much money you have in your bank account, 1.75%. That is what makes it an expropriation. But I want to tell my friend John that Ghanaians are not refusing to pay the E-Levy because we are not patriotic. Ghanaians, an overwhelming majority of Ghanaians are refusing to pay the E-Levy because of the way you have mismanaged the other taxes you have collected.
He has explained to you what they use the money for.
No, what they use the money for is to sit in 50-car convoys, SUV convoys. We've seen them. ride around in bulletproof Maybachs. They do that. What they do with your taxes is to rent private aircraft at enormous expense for the president to fly in a country that you claim by your own mouth, by the finance minister's own mouth, that we are near to economic collapse if you don't get this expropriative tax. The president of this republic still insists that he will fly around in a private jet, which some say they've already procured. Never mind the fact that the defense minister comes to parliament to tell us that the president needs a jet. John, what would have happened if you use all that money with which the president uses to fly around to start a new airline? After all, he was the foreign minister, either the foreign minister or the justice minister, when they messed up Ghana Airways. What would have happened if you did that? Wouldn't that money have created new jobs for young people? Wouldn't we have been able to create pilots? Wouldn't we have been able to create technicians? Wouldn't we have spawned a whole new industry like the Togolese have with A-Sky? The Togolese started A-Sky 9 years ago. Today, it is the biggest interregional airline in this our sub-region. What happened to that vision that you promised to have? You were supposed to be the doyens of what do you call it? Protecting the public purse. Are you protecting the public purse? John, in the history of this country, there has never been a period in which a finance minister and his deputy minister make money of every cent we borrow. And I'm not saying this in isolation. They were asked in parliament. The finance minister owns a company that is book running for the loans we collect. His deputy, Charles Edubuahini, also has another company that is book running for the loans we collect.
And these are official things you can say?
It's official. They were asked in parliament. John is a member of parliament. So, in the finance ministry hierarchy, the only person who is not profiting from what they are doing there is John Kuma.
Oh.
So, the day...
Can you say that?
But you are not profiting. I'm holding brief for you.
Nobody
If you have a company that's book running, tell us the name of the company. Because by my information, what I have and what I know, the reason why Ghanaians are upset...
I thought he was going to throw a bomb.
No. The reasons why Ghanaians are upset about paying taxes is that you have collected taxes. Your taxes are coming out of our noses. You have turned us upside down. You have shook us down, and you've collected all our coins from our pockets. We are tired. We have nothing more to give you. Now you have entered our bank account and you are expropriating our savings. Masa. You see, John said something.
John, stop. This is baby heckling.
He's going person, but he knows I'm the master of heckling. So you see, John.
Yes.
As soon as you came, you threw in a little salvo where you said, you are not a government of nuisance taxes because you removed some 17 taxes. John, you didn't remove 17 taxes. You modified taxes on 17 items. Let me tell you the taxes you have introduced. 3% flat rate, 5% increase in VAT, because what you did was you disambiguated VAT, right? And so then again, by the time you added it up, you had added 5%. You can dispute that. 5% national fiscal stabilization levy, 2% special import levy, luxury vehicle tax, which they were forced to abandon, but they still did it. 50% increase in communication service tax, which our brother Franklin was talking about. 1% COVID-19 health recovery levy on the 3% VAT rate, so it's now 4%. 1% COVID-19 health recovery levy on the 2.5%, making it 3.5% now. I mean, before I go any further, many of us in this country got COVID. I got COVID. Why am I paying taxes for getting COVID? Why am I paying taxes for getting COVID, for getting sick? A sickness that the first person who got it is somebody who came on a presidential flight. If that had happened during NDC time, John Kuma would have been the first person to go out and say, President, the COVID. Like I said, these days, he's a big man. So he has stopped those things. He's even managed a nice mustache and everything. He's looking very nice. He's looking the part, you know. So, never because. Well, so you see, 5% financial sector cleanup recovery levy. You destroyed people's banks.
Is that what they did?
Well, that is the opinion of many. You destroyed people's over 40,000 people were sent home during the so-called banking sector cleanup. You used 22.5 billion cedis to solve a 9 billion cedi problem. And here, let me give you an example, because they like to give examples about America. When certain banks got into trouble because of the Freddie Mac and the Fannie Mae issue, they cited individuals who caused the problem and they let the law deal with them. The government went to the rescue of the banks to protect people's jobs. So nobody is disputing, because I'm not there to know the state and the level of distress of those so-called banks. But they used 22.5 billion cedis to solve a 9 billion cedi problem. How does that even begin to make sense to you? And John can dispute the figures, because I'm not here with a piece of paper. He thinks I don't know the figures, but I know it. You see, then let's go and talk about the 20% Pesos energy sector recovery levy, which is the ESLA, right? Do you remember that they specifically honed in on ESLA and called it a nuisance tax? That was the origin of the mnemonic nuisance tax. Remember, when they came, what did they do with ESLA? They have collateralized it to borrow. So now ESLA, which was supposed to have timed out by now, has now been foisted upon us until 2035. That is what they have done. The very nuisance tax that they decried, they have used it to now collateralize, go and collect loans which the finance minister and his deputy benefit from. Then there's Bola tax.
You have a long list there. You don't have too much time.
No, I won't. So I'll stop somewhere.
Stop at Bola tax and continue.
Okay, I'll stop at Bola tax. You know, in this country, everybody pays municipal taxes for the removal of refuse. That has not been repealed. That has not been prescribed. Now we are paying 1% Bola tax. Nobody knows where the money is going. So since you demand that I stop there, I'll stop there and I will come back next week with part 2.
Okay.
John, when you guys talk about using what's the name of that tax again? You see, COVID makes me forget sometimes. The E-Levy. You are saying you are going to use E-Levy to build roads. Are you serious? When you came into power, you instituted the Capping and Realignment Act. Am I lying? So when you get road fund, you cap it at a point, you take the rest, and you can do whatever you want with it. Nobody knows what you do with it. So how can you tell me that you now want a new tax to go and build new roads? Well, why don't you repeal the Capping and Realignment Tax law? Am I not making sense? You have a law.
So there are alternatives.
The alternatives are many. Let's go there. You are telling us that we want to build roads for you. Good. We already have a road fund that is designed to do that. You cap the road fund so that you could take whatever you wanted out of the road fund and do whatever you want. And whatever they want means spending it willy-nilly on frivolous things. Like eating kenke in the finance ministry after they've gone and borrowed more money.
That's not fair. But
they did eat kenke in the courtyard of the finance ministry. John wasn't there, but they did eat kenke. So after all that, you tell us that you've now suddenly had a eureka moment where you are going to build roads. My brother John is telling us about cost cutting. John, when NDC was in power, now that President Akufo-Addo is in power, the amount of money that went to the Office of Government Machinery, which goes to the Flagstaff House, Jubilee House, whatever you want to call it, has been increased by 1,000%. Just last year, they appropriated 2.515 billion cedis to the Flagstaff. Well, yeah, to the Flagstaff House. This year, they've increased it to 3.25 billion. Why aren't you cutting it down? It is that kind of money for which they come and tell us that they use 63 million cedis of it to travel in 9 months. So instead of the president flying around in his private jet, we would have liked to see him going commercial, like he used to before he became president. Then we know that we are in a crisis. Everybody is cutting down. We are tightening our belts. Everybody in the kitchen sink are tightening their belts. But they are not doing that. They keep coming to it. They keep increasing their own personal comfort and then telling the rest of us, the ordinary citizens of this country, to keep tightening. And we are tight, John. We have tightened our belt so much that the belt is tearing at the seams.
Okay, thank you,
Let me round up by saying that. Look, one other problem you are having is the strident nature in which you sought to introduce the tax. Taxes have brought down civilizations. Taxes brought down the Roman Empire. Taxes brought down the Greco civilization. Taxes brought down Attila the Hun. So if you want to introduce taxes, you need to be demure. You need to be respectful of the people that are going to pay the tax, and you need to explain. Why are you now explaining after the fact? Are you doing yourself any good? The strident nature of which you insisted that you are going to charge us 1.7. You know what what is going to happen? Instead of Momo, you are going to introduce Brefie Beji. Everybody is going to carry their money and go home. But if we're going to have a second round, I'm going to go into that and explain why that will happen. Because that Momo money is a float. It is with the banks. Nobody has Momo money sitting in their house. It is with the banks. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to cause a run on the banks if you're not careful. It is all good for you to say we've done this research and we've done that research. You have not done any empirical research that simulates what is going to happen, because it will happen. Ghanaians are overtaxed, John. We are an overtaxed species. Instead of you guys, and once again I say, instead of you guys acting stridently and not understanding where we are as a people, listen to us. Go and cut down expenditure in your own house. When we see that you are actually living and walking the talk, maybe we will consider giving you what you are asking for, knowing that you will use it to do the right thing.
Thank you very much, Kojochu Mboafo, for that. So, Alex, you've heard Kojo's position on the matter. You've heard John's position on the matter. So when you are done, John, I have questions from the listeners for you. I have about 6 or 7 questions I've selected, just so that you can answer those ones, and then we will. I will squeeze this on 10 minutes or so, around 2 for you, sure. Alex.
Okay.
Interesting.
Are you convinced by the position of John? You have always said that let's look at what the data says. Let's not do emotional economics about this. Does he sound like, since he's representing government, does the government sound like they are being rational about this?
I think rationalization in this context is relative. At the end, I didn't do the research, so I wouldn't know what parameters inform that and how to authenticate the results. But obviously, as a researcher myself, I respect research, but that is probably not the basis of my conversation. You see, it starts with the whole concept of E-Levy. And I know they've gone in deep, so I wouldn't go much. But you see, there's something we need to draw our attention on. Mobile money, we call it mobile wallet, isn't it? So I have my wallet here, which is my physical wallet. And then I have my mobile wallet. So if you're my boss, you pay my salary. I can choose to put it in this fiscal wallet and walk around with it. I don't pay any taxes. If I choose to go electronically because maybe I'm concerned about security in my house or I want convenience, and I put it on the electronic means, I'm getting charged. So the first question I will ask is, what is the full fairness in the tax? I know you're going to leave that for something now. But that's the distinction I want to draw. And conventionally, this is not the kind of tax you levy. You levy taxes on incomes. Taxes are levied on properties or capital gains, for example, or on consumption. The question I'd like to ask is, the E-Levy, does it fall under consumption? Absolutely no. Does it fall under income taxes? Or does it fall under capital gains? So knowing that it doesn't fall under any of those conventional ways you want to tax, and we all appreciating that the country is going through some difficult times, I think the first thing and the honorable thing some of our political leaders should have done is about changing the posture. I think the anger from Ghanaians mainly has been with the posture. I mean, I've been watching some videos of some MPs and political leaders saying we will pass it at all costs, whether you like it or not. No, this is not a conventional tax, and this is the tax people can easily avoid. So the conversation should be, situations are very tight for us. Things are really hard on us. It's COVID, the whole world is struggling. We appreciate that. But then you go to the point where, you see, when the COVID was striking, most time when the president comes, fellow Ghanaians, your heart, no matter how angry you are, you want to go out, the moment the president speaks, your heart comes down. So with the fiscal challenges we are having, the starting point should be a conversation to Ghanaians that ideally, this is a young sector we don't want to disrupt. But you're getting to the point where, one, we are not getting any money from the external sources, or even if you are getting, conditions of borrowing are not that good. So therefore, we need to raise something domestically. And we believe the E-Levy is going to support. Come and openly talk to Ghanaians. You see, I like Honorable John Kuma's position now, and I really do. And the same time with the finance minister, if you've been following in the last few weeks, the approaches by these two ministers is totally different from what the MPs are saying, some of them. Like threatening, you're going to pass it at all costs. No. I think it's a conversation because people can easily avoid this, and the data is clear. Uganda introduced 1% in July 2018. By October, 3 months, they've gone more than 50% in revenue reduction on e-transactions. They had no choice than to come to 0.5. Initially, it was on deposits, it was on withdrawals, it was on purchases, it was on transfers. You know what they did? Within 3 months, the government realized that the 1% wasn't going to work. So what they did, they came to 0.5 only on withdrawals. So the reality is that I think we are operating on the assumption that all things being equal, so everybody is going to remain the same, apart from the 24% attrition rate, everything is going to remain the same. But I'll be frank here. You see, financial literacy in Ghana is very low. We need not to discount that. Yes. And as a result, people are very sensitive to the very marginal increase in cost of going digitized. So we should embrace ourselves that 24, I haven't done any research or any modeling, but I will be surprised if that 24 happen not to be much higher. Unless maybe Ghanaians are now appreciating the fact that Honorable John Kuma is here, the finance minister, their tone is changing. Well, I haven't listened to them from the beginning. And I think their position is the kind of posture Ghanaians would have loved to see from the onset.
From last year.
Exactly.
Not this week.
No, well, from the point when we realized that this tax was coming. And I think they are doing maybe the government much bigger favor with that posture than some of the approaches some of the MPs are using, saying we are going to pass the low financial literacy is a way telling you that these guys are ready to strike at any point in time. Now, in terms of discouraging Momo users, I really do think it's very high. I don't know how people's patriotism is going to maybe arise overnight for them to start using. But frankly, I really do think people are really going to struggle to keep up with these charges. Already, they are paying 1% in sending and sometimes 1% withdrawing. So already I have my own challenge, and I think I've done even a couple of articles on the legal basis. Telcos will have to be charging 1% on deposit. In the first place, you are giving them free money to do business. What is the basis of even the telcos charging that 1% in the first place? Well, that's for another day. Now, government is going to add 1.5 to it. So put it together, and the numbers are going to tell you it's going to be reasonable. And crucially, I haven't seen any capping from the government. You see, I don't use Momo, but I use Vodafone. But those using MTN, I say when you do, I think up to 20,000, you only pay 10 Ghana cedis. So is government going to say maybe up to 10 or 20,000, there's the amount you have to pay, after which you don't pay anymore? We need to be clear again on the capping, because if not, as it stands, if I have to transact 10,000 and I'm going to pay 150 Ghana, if it's 1.5 to government, then I'll sit down and think, why wouldn't I just go to the bank? Because even on Uber, from my house to say my bank in East Legon will cost me maybe about 10 or 15 Ghana cedi. So they need to look at all this, reduce the rate to make it less rewarding not to use the service. But as it stands, I really do think the 1.75 or so 1.5 is definitely way too much. One is going to definitely encourage people to go into cash economy. We are preaching cashless agenda. Government has done a lot.
And it's still investing significantly.
I can go, as I stand, I can go to my barber. Last time I went, hey, go anymore. I go to my, the moment he finished shaving, he gave me some code, I transferred, and said, wow, this is Ghana. This is the Ghana we are all proud of having. But I really do think this agenda has the potential of eroding all the beautiful gains government has made. And I really do think, yes, it is good to tax digitized transactions, but are we taxing it right? Kenya is doing something that I really do think we can do the same. And UK started anyway on the digital service tax, which is on companies operating in the digital space. Kenya has the same. They introduced their Finance Act 2020, Finance Act 8, and I was reading the section 4 of the act. And it kind of lists the kind of transactions they want to tax, not on individuals. So we can still make a gain on those operating on the digital platforms without necessarily taxing moving money from one person to another, because I describe this as just a money transportation charge. In Kenya, for example, video streaming, audio streaming, tickets that you buy online for events, marketplaces. And here you have Jumia, you have Tonaton, you have Gigi. All these companies, I can sit down in the comfort of my home and I can buy a car, I can buy even a $1 million house easily by the comfort of my home. It tells you that the sector is growing. And to me, if government really is bent on taxing the sector, in the long term, the most sustainable way is to look at the operators, companies operating within the digital platform, the digital marketplace. It should be the focus. Now, there was another issue of, okay, we can bring informal sector operators if you introduce Momo. I do disagree with that. And the reason is that it's not a tax for informal sector operators. It's tax for everybody. So me, in the example I gave that, I get paid, I put part of the money here or there. I've already paid PAYE on this money. So if you start taxing me, that is not right, simply because an informal sector operator is not paying and you want to bring them to the tax net. Now the question is, we need to do a proper system audit. And I think we've done this over and over again, interview in the city. That one, what are the key areas where informal sectors are operating? Is it construction? Is it plumbing? Is it tailoring? Is it market activities? If it is, what creative, sustainable strategy are we designing to tax the informal sector? To me, that's the sustainable conversation we need to have. Typical example, and I like using this a lot. Look at this big city TV building. The guys we call masons. We don't ask a stand. There's no clear-cut way of taxing these people. I can employ a mason. He can put up a building like this within 3 months if he has lots of apprentices or boys, as we call them. Imagine he charges me 30,000. He moved to another one, 30,000. He moved to another one. In a year, he can build about 4 or 5 of these houses. This guy's paying nothing. Recently, a colleague of mine finished his house, and the guy doing the wiring, he charged him about 18,000 Ghana. He paid him nothing. So to me, this is why we need to have the informal sector conversation. If the tax is indeed to bring in informal sector, then definitely that is not the solution. We need to look at a clear system audit, look at the economy. Where are the main drivers where the informal sectors operate? What is the most sustainable way of taxing the people? So in this builder's example, can we have, saying, a builder's license? So in this case, we cannot build if you don't have a license. We make it a law. So at the end of the year, go to your nearby district assembly, file your, it can be just one pager, as they are doing in Seychelles. You file just one page for your returns. That means you don't need any accountant to do it. Do your, if it's 10 million or whatever amount you've generated, say 2% or 3% gross turnover, which has been proposed in the budget anyway, and I'm very happy it is coming. So can we now look at some of these gross turnover taxes, maybe linking licensing to builders or the informal sector? Again, it brings even sanity and it brings security issues. Houses are getting burned because of unqualified electricians. We can clean up the sector, get these guys in, get them to comply. I really don't think the E-Levy will bring informal sector operators into the formal fold. Because
you're not convinced?
No, and the reason is simple. You see, we cannot stop informality. Not even the advanced countries can stop informality. Anytime we try to stop informality, another informal sector will emerge. So we need to find a way of taxing the informal sector. That is the solution. E-Levy, if the person is already operating in the informal sector, the point is, why are they already there? Is it legal? Is that because of the bureaucratic systems you have in the formal space? Is it because of filing of accounts? So if the person is already in the informal sector, chances are that if you bring anything that to bring them to the formal fold, which is going to cost them more, they will find a way to evade. Rather, tackle them from the source, their area of operations, bring in appropriate policies to capture them, regulate the sector, get them on board, and to me, that is the conversation I believe we really do need to have. Okay. And crucial to end it.
Yes.
My biggest worry is the unemployment situation likely to bring about on the E-Levy. 100%, I do understand government position. Government is very, very tight, unless you don't follow Ghana's financial situation. And we are not alone. I appreciate it. All across the world, every economy is struggling. So therefore, government needs to find a quicker way of overturning. But the unemployment challenges can be severe. You see, we were predicting the attrition rate to be 24%, according to the Honorable Minister, by the model. UNCDF are suggesting that Ghana Momo agents are made up of 441,000. If this is true, and 24% attrition, let's say in the first 6 months, get that 441,000 of 24% was going to give you 105,834. This is even bigger than the people employed by NAPCO. So the question is, how are we going to support our young men and women who are depending so much on the sector to survive? It can be a bigger challenge in an attempt to raising revenue. The consequences could be severe. Yes, it's a short term. And finally, is it going to be a short-term stopgap to say, okay, situations are tight, Ghanaians, please help us?
Once we solve the problem.
Once you solve, maybe 3 years' time, 2-3 years, when the country's finances are better, we will revert it. All these conversations to me are very important. We need to have it in a way that Ghanaians will be comfortable, and I'm sure they will decide.
Honorable Kuma, note that last one down for me as one of the questions you answered. And let me just go through a couple of messages for you as well. And then we will use the next 10 or so minutes to wrap this up. And then I'll move on to the other conversation that you are also heavily vested in, benchmark values and its impact on the rice sector. So Babamu wants to pay the tax. He's very happy. He says, I agree, government, but government needs to do broader consultation. So Mavis from Tesano says, the online market is big business and needs to be taxed. But my question is this: how do you differentiate between someone who is paying for fuel through Momo and one who is making profits from online business? Because with the explanation given, government is taxing every transaction that is 100 Ghana cedis plus, and that does not make sense to me. And then this one says, Nana from Sakaman says, please ask Honorable Kuma why in opposition they said Ghana had a lot of money and why they did not understand why the other party was taxing people. Why did they say they will reduce taxes? And then let me just take you to Twitter, where there are a couple of other questions for you on. Well, John, a lot of people still are not very convinced by why 1.5%. So maybe. And then this one says the telcos have a cap to the 1% Momo charge. Will the E-Levy be capped? That's the question that the person is asking. This one says, please let John Kuma correct me if I'm wrong. And John, some of these questions have been sent to your own Twitter handle, so you can also just check from there later when you have time.
Okay.
It says, please correct me if I'm wrong. He keeps saying to just 20 Ghana cedis. Isn't the E-Levy limitless in terms of charge on transactions? So that's another question that is coming. It says, can he ask John Kuma to explain how government concluded with a reduction of 1.25% since telcos are charging 0.25% and government is now preaching a 1.5% reduction. So that's how these are some of the questions that have come in. I'll take a quick break so that John can think around some of these questions. I will give 5 minutes each to John and Kojo. We'll wrap this up. And Senor Hosi is somewhere in the building. We'll discuss rice. Today, John is in trouble. Everywhere he goes, people are meeting him.
It's not trouble. It's service to our nation. We are not troubled at all.
Welcome to the City Newsroom. My name is Vivian Kai Loco.
I am Umaru Sanda Amadou.
My name is Freme Dunyame.
My name is Bobi Osei.
This stream goes all the way to Papaye on the Spintex Road. When the rain set in, because of the houses that have blocked its access routes, it takes over the place, overflows, and that's where you see the flooding.
Well, if you want any evidence to show whether or not Shatta Wale is a popular artist, this right here reflects that.
And you know how the ghetto is. You always understand Shatta Wale. Yeah, that's why we always love him, because he's our motivator.
But you know, I can never panic like Titanic. All Nima panic.
Hello and welcome to the City Newsroom. This is your bedroom. Yes. Now, can you tell us exactly what was destroyed, what happened here?
Okay, they have just destroyed my iron, fridge, fan, and this is what they destroyed in my room.
Within the hearts of our youth, if you don't release that anger, you can only have a revolution on your hands.
There seemed to be some heavy military presence, and on our way, we actually saw some residents leaving this community to the next village, that is Papase. This is Domfase.
CNR every day at 8 p.m. for a comprehensive bulletin of the biggest news stories only on City TV.
Welcome back to the big issue. So, John, you have some of the questions that have... You can't answer everything, so I would suggest in this time, we don't have too much time. I'm allocating 5 minutes to this. So quickly address the questions for the audience and what you want to do. I think Alex has also given you some questions, and then Kojo speaks, and then we wrap this up.
Yeah, I agree with many of the things Alex have said, except that, he gave a scenario of his wallet, the fiscal wallet, and the phone wallet, and sought to suggest that, but the mere fact of putting money in his Momo wallet attracts the tax, which I disagree. It is not like that. If you put money on your Momo wallet, we are not going to charge you. In fact, when you move money from your wallet into your bank account, it's exempted. When you move your money from your bank account into your wallet, it's exempted. But the scenario where you are using it to pay a service and we tax you, I want to ask, if you collected the money in your wallet and you say you went into a filling station to buy a fuel, there's taxes on the fuel. You have already paid tax on your income. But are you going to say because you have already paid income tax on your salary, the fuel tax that you are paying at the pump, you are not going to pay the tax there?
Don't worry.
No, let's make
I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a minute. Just note that one question.
It's a rhetorical question. But the essence of what I'm trying to say is that because I've heard people say tax on tax and all kind of arguments, which for me is not like that. Because yes, income taxes are taxed. But for every services you engage in with the money you have, you still pay tax. If you enter a supermarket to buy this water
with cash,
you still pay tax. They will give you a VAT if you enter a restaurant, whether the money is so clearly for me. But one legitimate concern I've heard throughout all this engagement is the issue of capping. And for now, no decision has been made, so I cannot speak to it. But I think it's a legitimate concern that has been raised.
That quite a bit on Twitter.
Yes. And so maybe going forward, when we meet at governmental level and decisions are made. Oh, yes. When you make legitimate concerns, we pick it on board. In fact, we didn't start E-Levy in the scope and form that it is today. Lots of suggestions have been modified to suit the public expectation. Is it a permanent tax? I should think so, because the world is changing from agrarian economy to industrial economy to information age. And today we are told it's a digital age. And if the economy is shifting from the normal things we know into a digital world, I don't see why government should not go into digital tax as a permanent way of raising revenue for this country. So that I can say will be permanent because of how the world is moving. We have moved on. Of course, I've heard somebody say when we're in opposition, we complain about taxes. It's true. And when we came, we took steps. I mean, why will you charge Kayaye tax, condom tax, cutlass tax? Those things, my friend here even agrees that they were nuisance taxes. But that is not to say you cannot take productive taxes to build the economy. And we believe that what we are introducing will help build the economy better. And that is what I can say to that. Why 1.5%?
Yes.
I have tried to explain that decision has come based on research,
the modeling you did.
Modeling we did. And we trust that we are going to get the results. But like I've always stated, if we start and we get a feedback that shows that it is not workable, government can always respond. But for now, for all that we have done, in fact, it was at 1.75, and we got the telcos to reduce by 0.25. And as of today, when we did more public engagements and we met also the minority side and all kinds of groups, the CSOs, the FBOs, government has further reduced to 1.5%. We believe...
Keep going down, you get to zero.
Well, at the end of the day, if we get to zero, it's for the country. If we maintain where we are to raise the resources, it's for the country. We are not going to behave like the dead goat syndrome when my friend, when he was in government, you tell him things are not going well, so me, I have a dead goat syndrome. We don't want to govern like that. We want to respond to some of the concerns. And my friend advised us against the use of certain language that some MPs have been using. Let me use this platform to appeal passionately to all Ghanaians that we cannot disrespect their opinion. And so if some of the commentary has been unpleasant, it's not deliberate. We don't intend to disrespect any contrary opinion. And so they should bear with us. Sometimes it gets heated. And if you are not careful, your choice of words can create a different impression. So we are determined to respect the public opinion and to engage further until we are able to achieve equilibrium and a point where even my friend Kojo can become a disciple of the E-Levy.
Amen. Amen.
It's a difficult task.
Kojo, you have 5 minutes.
Yes, okay. You see, let me put it on the record. I'm happy that in this conversation, John has not dared to mention Dr. Bawumia. Because
I thought I mentioned him.
The then opposition Dr. Bawumia in the studios of Joy FM, and I am quoting him. He said the E-Levy is unthinkable. Read my lips.
There was no context to it.
Unthinkable.
Okay.
It's not contextual. It is an act of desperation. That was Dr. Bawumia then. And I agree with him then. And I stand with it now. You see, he said we were introducing nuisance taxes. They've gone from nuisance to killer. Their taxes are killer taxes. They are not a nuisance. John, when you introduce this thing, somewhere in the text, behind the scenes, in the appendices, you were going to appropriate 248 million cedis of that money to so-called revenue assurance. That, John, was dishonest.
But it's been taken out.
Hold on. You don't know that.
Okay.
It was dishonest. And I'll tell you why it was dishonest. The GRA administers PAYE. Under the GRA, we have customs that administers all the duties that we pay. How could you tell me that you needed your own pet company to administer 248 million cedis of that tax? And if somebody says, the unbeliever that I am, the Thomas that I am when it comes to your government, says that you are planning to steal the money, well, am I wrong? What did we need that revenue assurance for, which ended up becoming fisticuffs in cabinet? Because we heard that it became fisticuffs between two ministers. In the end, somehow or the other, we are being told that it's been shelved. I won't say it's been scrapped, it's been shelved, because when the rhythm hits them, it will come back. See, when you do those things, you cannot tell me or Alex or Godfrey or any of the young people in this studio who work hard for a living that we should pay E-Levy. That is the real problem you are having. It has very little to do with all the semantics and all the mnemonics that you are giving it in here a bit here, and we will give children. You've come to power. This you are in your 6th year. You have proscribed NABCO. You have killed NABCO. And you are still telling us we should pay tax so you go give people jobs. Look, another thing is that we all know that you want that money to go and collateralize it, to go and collect yet another loan. That your colleagues in the finance minister, the minister and his deputy will benefit from. You won't benefit from it because you won't start a company. But they will benefit from it, and the Ghanaian public do not like it. John, I have known you for years, 20 years. I want you to tell me what the John Kuma prior to 2016 would have said. It's Setepe and Atufosi had companies that were benefiting from the loans that we collect. So far, you people have borrowed over 250 billion. I don't know the quantum that has gone into their so-called private companies. But it is easy for me to say that it is because they are doing that they are encouraged to borrow more. John, disavow what I'm saying, that you are not looking for this money to go and collateralize it. Disavow it. One of the things that we've been told is that if we don't get the money, you have to go to IMF. Go to IMF.
We won't go.
And then when you get there,
that's what you're looking for.
No, that's not what we're looking for.
That's such a bad idea.
It's not such a bad idea.
It's a terrible idea, not just a bad idea. We are not going
but you know
to
why?
the
You know why
IMF.
they cannot go. They cannot go because you see, the little piglet that was looking at his mom and says, "Mama, wa no soon," and the mother said, "Hey, now be me." You said all kinds of things about
but when you go to IMF, what are you going to get? Maximum 1 billion.
No, what IMF is going to tell you.
You need a headmaster over your economy. Don't do this, don't do that.
What IMF is going to tell you is that tell your president to return the private jet. You are going to move from first class and business economy. You sit at the back of the we will keep saving money that way.
And you think instead of with that IMF, I cannot sit in economy. Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that. I said
so if we can do that, then why do we have to go to IMF?
Because you have 1 minute.
No, wait, let me finish. Instead of your bullet,
you have 1 minute.
Instead of your bullet, you go.
You mean your Disikawan?
You sit on the desk. Or you sit on the back.
Let me finish my
I'll let you talk about it before he goes. Let him wrap up.
Let me say by saying, look, petrol prices have already gone up 3 times this year. John, I'm sure you are aware.
Yeah.
Last year, it went up 29 times.
But there's a system for that, isn't there?
No.
Your time, it went up 200 times.
Wait. When we were in power, did they disregarded the so-called system?
Okay.
Oh, I'm glad my brother is here. Maybe I should get up and let him come and tell us.
He's replacing you in 3 minutes.
Exactly. So, John, the people of this country are tired of paying tax. The problem you are having is like the legend of Abu Ben Adam, who had a camel, loaded the camel and loaded the camel and loaded the camel and loaded the camel. One day he simply added a straw and the camel broke down. That is where we are. The people of Ghana say no more taxes because you don't do anything with our taxes. You can willy-nilly, left, right, and center, doing all kinds of things that we don't understand. In a country that you claim is going bust, what business does our president have sitting in my back? What business? When you go to Germany, does Angela Merkel sit in my back? Angela Merkel walks to work. That is the problem we are having. Give us some modesty. And when you want anything else,
the
we can have.
You ordered before you left office.
We can
the
have.
You ordered before you left office. You wanted the president to put it on
Kojo,
you ordered it.
Thank you very much, Kojo. Thank you very much.
Wait, on the record, what he's saying is a lie, and he knows it.
The car you ordered.
That is not. That is not. Hold on.
I bet you
that. Stop that.
That is not the subject of this conversation. So
don't do that.
I will wrap up conversation on the E-Levy for now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kojo Chumbuafo. Franklin Kujo is still with me. I'll get to Franklin Kujo in a bit. Yes, Franklin opened the floor for me on this. Franklin.
Yes.
You've heard everybody now. So, as always, you have the final word on this.
Well, I guess the real issue now is whether Ghanaians will be convinced, as the government is not doing what it should have done earlier. And so we wait to see. But I suspect that the lessons from other countries, rather than the neighboring countries they said had done same, will be our most useful guide. I can only wish them well.
Thank you.
But I think the percentage should come down a bit. There must be some substantial reduction.
Okay.
I was thinking between 0.75 to 1%.
Okay, thank you very much, Franklin Kujo. So, Alex, you said you had 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Can you manage it? If you can't, let me move on. You can't manage it, fine.
No, I can manage it.
Okay.
I think quickly I wanted to respond to Honorable Minister's session on the filling station with the e-wallet. And
okay, go on.
You see, there are still differences between. And the taxes that you pay when you're consuming the fuel, these are the levies already government has. It doesn't matter whether you use your Momo wallet or you use
cash.
So the point I'm trying to make is that at that filling station, somebody using cash from his physical wallet will not have to pay extra. But somebody who is paying by Momo, by the E-Levy will pay extra. That's the distinction.
All right, thank you very much. So that's the conversation on the E-Levy all done. We are going to talk about another aspect of the economy, perhaps the single most important part of the economy, the agri sector, and what the benchmark value is doing to it according to rice farmers. So peasant farmers have been talking. They held a joint press conference in Tamale. This was the leadership of the Peasant Farmers and Rice Millers Association of Ghana. And they are stressing that this current policy that exists favors importers at the expense of local producers. So let's hear what they said at that presser. And then when we return, Senor Hosi joins the big issue panel.
In 2019, the government implemented a benchmark value discount policy to cushion the cost of imported goods, including rice. The policy, even though welcomed by the Ghana Union of Traders Association (GUTA), the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana and the Rice Millers Association of Ghana say the policy is to the disadvantage of local rice farmers. According to the association, some rice millers have shut down their businesses due to high production costs. Addressing a joint press conference in Tamale on Tuesday, the leadership of the two groups called on government to reconsider its decision and implement the review policy, particularly for agricultural produce. Here is the head of programs for the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Charles Nyaba, speaking.
As we speak, I have over 1,000 bags of paddy rice in the rice valleys that I can sell. We have been supplying our rice to companies like Avinas. We asked them why they are not buying. They said that now they can't buy because the rice in the market, the price is far, far lower than what they sell. Because when they process and put all their costs together, it's far higher. So when they also process and sell, they are making losses. So we dig further to understand why they say they can't sell. And the reason is simple. Government has given a discount of 50% to rice importers who are already benefiting from subsidies from importing countries like Thailand, Vietnam, and Co. Because you go to Thailand today, rice farmers take loans with zero interest rate. There is a benchmark price that the government set for rice producers, that if the market buy below that price, government will take up the additional cost. So we think that if you have a country that want to industrialize and targeting to become self-sufficient in rice production by 2024, you need to actually put in policies that will make your local rice sector competitive. So the essence of this press conference or our concern is for governments to listen to us. That currently the country is suffering. The government needs revenue. Agri sector needs some investment. So we just think that we are rather helping the government to achieve its own agenda of making the rice sector self-sufficient and even export to our neighboring countries. So we are calling them to reverse this policy as soon as possible. Once they do that, we have we can compete. We can equally compete with the importers. Our prices will be at a par. So with that, we'll be able to sell and continue to remain in business.
Ahmed Adam, a rice farmer in the northern region, corroborates the claim by the leadership of the groups. According to him, large number of his paddy rice are in stock due to lack of market, as the major off-takers are currently not working.
I harvest the rice. I don't know where I can even sell it to sell. I don't have a market. This year, one Abnash came and bought a little, about 500 bags. This year, we bought a bag of fertilizer 300 Ghana cedi. Compared to this dry season, I'm going back to Bontang and farm. A bag of fertilizer is 420 Ghana cedis at now. No subsidy. So it's a little bottle of condemn is 40 Ghana cedi. So it's challenging with the farmers. So one government brought this planting and food and job. We thought that he gained, he coming to help us, but now he's coming to destroy our farming activity.
In the midst of conflicting interests between Guta and farmers, the Rice Millers Association of Ghana believes the government can maintain the policy while exempting food products. Yao Edupoku is the convener for the Rice Millers Association of Ghana.
We have tried. And from the grapevine, we hear that even rice would not even be part of the... and so what it means is that we are finding it difficult to go and buy the paddy from the farmers. And the farmers had a short-lived relief with the influx of the Nigerians coming into our markets last year. They came in because of the policies that were created in their home country. The Buhari government closed the land borders and closed the harbors against certain commodities, not all. And the commodities that they closed the borders against was rice and sugar, and then I think oil. So you could not import rice into Nigeria. So overnight, there was shortage of rice in Nigeria.
Welcome back to the big issue. So that was, we heard from the joint press conference, Peasant Farmers Association and Rice Millers Association of Ghana, who are stressing that the current policy that is in existence favors importers of rice at the expense of local producers. In fact, if you've been reading the Daily Graphic this weekend following the City Breakfast Show, it's been a conversation that we have been heavily interested in. Yesterday's Daily Graphic front page said 300,000 potential jobs could be lost in the value chain if the government does not take another look at this policy. And again, I guess I will start with you, the Deputy Finance Minister, John, on this matter before I come to Senor.
Yeah.
What is the government's current position on this benchmark thing? It's suspended, right? Is it suspended?
Well, suspended for re-engagement, but definitely coming to be reintroduced. It's
to be reintroduced.
I mean, to be
reversed. To be enforced. The reverse has got to be
enforced.
Okay. I mean, all right. Please make that a headline right now.
But that is not a secret, and it's not so much of even a revenue question than the impact on our economy. The cost is terrible. You cannot export jobs from your country by reducing benchmark values. Of course, the time when we did it,
2019.
Of course, the time when we did it, we thought it will give us the dividends, the results. And in one aspect, yes, it gave a certain level of comfort to importers and to our traders who were bringing in goods. And so I can say that, yes, from that point of view, looking at the interest groups and stakeholders who pushed for that policy, government achieved that. But over a time, you need to review the impact of your decisions as government. What has happened is that many local manufacturing companies have lost jobs. They have become uncompetitive on the market. Clear example is the soap making industry, where palm oil, our farmers who were selling palm oil to soap producers in Ghana, all of a sudden lost jobs because it became cheaper for soap producing manufacturers to import from Malaysia or Indonesia and reduce their cost of production at the price or at the cost of local producers. So, and not just that, look at poultry, look at rice. Almost every sector you are talking about, we are looking at a situation where it's becoming uncompetitive. Even areas like sugar. People have said we are not producing sugar in commercial quantities, and so why should you do the benchmark? Why should you remove the benchmark values? The point is that those who import sugar into your country makes it so impossible, if you don't remove the benchmark values, for an FDI or an investor sitting somewhere who will do his market analysis and say, if I invest in sugar in commercial quantities in Ghana, I can sell at maybe 50 Ghana cedis per bag. The importer who imports it from China gets it at, say, 30 cedis or 20 cedis. So how can he sell when he finally comes to produce in Ghana? So we have to have a situation where your import price and your local production price is at par, almost the same. But the current situation makes it so uncompetitive for local producers. Poultry. We are doing one district, one factory, encouraging a lot of local farmers. Even Kwabnanda Ako farms have been revived. We are talking about so many local poultry farmers who are picking up. At the end of the day, the cost of their birds dressed to the market is about 40 Ghana cedis. And if an importer decides to bring a dressed bird from, say, Holland or UK, he's selling it at 15 Ghana cedis. So how can the two compete on the same market? And yet we are saying we are promoting local industries and one district, one factory agenda. So these benchmark values has priced out our local manufacturers. And for me, the cost to these local industries, and I say this from point of view of government, that we think that the cost to government in terms of job creation and even investment flow into local industries is more. In terms of having reviewed the 2-year impact of that policy, the cost is more than the benefit. And that is why government re-engaged GUTA and the traders and AGI in the 2022 budget and sought to reverse the benchmark values so that, of course, it has revenue implications.
Yes.
But that is not the motivation, because last year, with these same benchmark values, government exceeded its revenue target of 57 billion. So we are not reversing because we are looking for money. But I think that we are reversing because we need to revive the local economy. We need to create jobs. We need to let Ghanaian businesses become competitive. And that has been the focus. But yes, His Excellency the President said not enough engagement and consultation has been done. So we should go back and engage the stakeholders like GUTA and the rest and the traders, which we have done. But like I've told you...
You are doing or you haven't?
Well, we have done. Okay. And maybe still ongoing. But I have been part...
Can you share? Because we do know that GUTA is a formidable lobby.
Oh, yes. And yes. And it's led
they seem to be the reason why the initial backtrack happened.
Yes. And I'm saying for that purpose, we achieved it as a country. But the cost to that benefit has been higher. And so as government, we need to review it. You get it. And that is the one philosopher who said an unexamined life is not worth living. Because whether you like it or not, Ghana is also a net import country. So sometimes it's a question of a chicken and egg situation. Because we are always importing, are you going to make your import so cheap so that you can have it cheap on the market? Or you allow competition to come in so that you can attract FDI. And now that you have AFTA, which is a huge incentive for investment in Africa. If, let's say, a company in India is producing or assembling tractors, and he thinks that by establishing a branch or an assembly line in Ghana, he can export to various parts of Africa, he will be happy to come if the local environment is conducive. Unfortunately, benchmark values make such investment opportunities unattractive to foreign investors who have the investment to come into our country. So these are some of the issues, some of the concerns, and the rationale behind the removal of the benchmark values. But of course, once you are doing that, you are going back to a situation where the importers are now also going to cry that
they'll tell you prices will go up.
Prices will go up. So that is the chicken and egg situation that as a country we need to interrogate. Do we want to have cheap goods whilst our industries collapse and we can't create jobs? Or we allow competition, that raises prices to a level where our local industries can also compete. And it's a chicken and egg situation.
Interesting. So, Senor, you must be smiling now then, because he has given some information that perhaps previously was not in the public space. Perhaps you might know because you engage a lot as a lobby for the rice side of things, but he's saying that it does look like the government shares the position you've been sharing for a couple of years now on this particular matter, that let's do away with the benchmark. But in addition to that, the question I will add to your response, I want you to add to your responses, is there the capacity? Because if you look at the shortfalls in there, once you are entrusted, you don't also want the situation where you antagonize the consumer because the consumer cannot find what he wants. So you can add that to your conversation. Is that something your side of the business is able to do once the government says, okay, let's grow the space, let Senor and the rice farmers have their way?
Thanks. It's good to be here. We have to extend our gratitude to City FM for its focused coverage of this entire engagement. And I think that's what's led to some of the things that we are seeing. Guta is a formidable force. The first thing we need to understand, and that myth has to be thrown away, the Guta market is not independent and at variance with the manufacturing market. Because Guta will have to buy from manufacturers somewhere in the world. They are currently buying from manufacturers elsewhere. So why should Guta always be seeing itself as one in competition with local manufacturers? Why aren't you just buying from local manufacturers if the capacity is here? So that myth has to be thrown away. There's room for all of us as an economy to grow together. And that's one thing we often don't do well. Look at inclusion. Our politics is in a disarray because they don't see ways of rather collaborating. Business must learn to collaborate. And I think Guta, AGI, whichever group, has a legitimate case for proper collaboration. The benchmark values, I gave your guys a few slides. I'll be happy if they put them up now.
Okay.
So we contextualize the discussion from an economic policy perspective. And you see, it tells you one story. This policy was driven without data analysis. Zero.
Oh.
I'm being honest with you. What was the basis?
This was an EMT decision.
I'm telling you that there was no data backing this. If somebody has, they should come and tell us the case for a benchmark value reduction. Apart from sentiments that they felt they were picking, that people were feeling so much pressure with prices of goods going up, forex rate not doing so well, and government realizing that I can't reduce the taxes because that's been passed by Parliament. So what we rather do is revise the base upon which the taxes will be applied. The arguments that were passed then were for smuggling. What was the data that this country had on smuggling? Somebody should show me that data. They should tell us how they've been monitoring and covering that data. You see, our policy making has to move to proper policy analysis and not emotive decisions without looking at thorough implications. And that's where we are. That slide should please come up again. And I'm going to show everybody this. And I refer to you. I think the last time your submissions, I mean, were good submissions, and I agreed with you that we have to really look at the data. But I think you made quite some mistakes there. You look at this, we're looking at it from a CD perspective. You see, looking at the average growth rate of our import duties. If you project what we should be having by 2021, that's what you see up there. The orange line is what we've been collecting under the benchmark. In total, as a country, we have easily lost our weight 10.2 billion from 2019 to date. Can you imagine what 10.2 billion Ghana cedis could have done in transforming our industrial sector? Go to the next slide, please. And this is where I come to you, because you see the first slide, you actually saw you were talking about an increase in the import duties in 2021. Please, I want that slide up back. Yeah. Can we have the slide back up?
We are four in the studio.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I mean,
don't worry.
It's argued. It's fine. It's also argued. It's argued that some people argue that the benchmark has actually led to an increase compared to 2018. And he referred to it, but he didn't refer to it as he making a policy position on it. He was saying you have to look at all the data. So I'm coming to. So that's what we are doing.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Let's look
now.
at it.
Look at this and value the revenue that has been realized from import duties. Okay, in real terms, and because our things are largely benchmarked in foreign exchange, you benchmark it to the dollar. You up to now in 2021, we have what 1.16 billion that dollars that we collected in import duties. Look at 2018, 1.33 billion. So up to date, since this benchmark was done, we have not seen a commensurate impact on our income. All right. So what really has been that particular magic about about this entire benchmark policy? I think somebody referred to we have a lot more people running through our ports. I'm sorry, but technically it's wrong. It's totally wrong, because we do not make revenue or lose revenue when people have re-exports or transit cargoes pass through our port. If you want people to run through your port, it's not benchmark values. It means you have to increase efficiency and the cost of port operations. It has nothing to do with benchmark values and import duties. When I'm importing or transiting cargo through Ghana to Burkina Faso, Tunisia, you don't pay duty. So benchmark value doesn't come in there. Not at all. What maybe this could have done was maybe you think you're trying to reduce this to stimulate a certain measure of consumption, generate a certain amount of income, and also disincentivize smuggling. But who is doing the smuggling? You think the smugglers are running through our borders and nobody sees them? Who is running and managing the people who are supposed to control those borders? Are they not the same politicians who are running our governments? So look, let's get real. At the end of the day, we've run this benchmark policy, and the net impact has been less revenue to government and rather disruption or disruption of our economic growth within the industrial sector. This must stop. There's no long conversation about this. You look at the data, there's nothing to support the continuation of this. And I thank Tessa Capital and the Research Boys there for staying up last night to really get me these slides. All this data is coming from Ministry of Finance and Bank of Ghana. Nobody else. So guys, the policy is sick. If you feel that we have a certain gap that has a certain socio-economic need, maybe you think we are the malnutrition in this country is going high, so we need certain kinds of things to come into this town. You want to select them well. But things that we are building internal capacity is the least you should do. You take rice. How many rice importers do you really have? The majors are about 3 or so. Olam, Sukriza, and another one. All these foreign companies. I have no problem with any foreign company. But you see, these guys have real muscle. What me as a farmer can give, because I'm not seeing top where I am sitting. I'm not getting the incentives that they get in Thailand. Thailand comes into this market with goods subsidized by about $150 by their government. I'm here as a farmer, John Kuma, my very, very good friend of 25 years, my political ally. Yes, solid from secondary school. Yes, this relationship
He's
is
a
deep.
politician. I don't know how he became a businessman and forgot politics.
You made it, yes, sir. I know you So you see, honestly, the policy is sick.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Government hasn't benefited in any way. It may want to say, I want to cushion some impacts on consumers for certain social reasons, which is allowed. So select those that really deliver that. So we need to have a thorough review of this entire exercise. What we must do immediately, before going to knowing whether we should take out the ants and put in the mosquito, whether we should take out Tinapa and put in Starkist, please stop the thing immediately. And I agree. After analyzing this data, I don't even think that we should even be talking now as just rice farmers. With benchmark value, all the industries must stand up and government must do what is right. So I was asking you guys last time, whose report do our governments want to write? You want to write the reports of some foreign businessmen, foreign, farmers, foreign industries, or you want to write the report of your own citizens? You make us line up the 7th of December every 4 years to come and vote. I'm running my rice farm. What we just did last year, which was just a test run, 350 hectares, about 1,000 acres, put about 3,000 people to work.
And the value chain.
And the value chain. All right. You have a lot more people doing other things. What incentive did I get from government? Zero. But I have to come and compete with somebody whose benchmark values have been slashed, whose government has actually subsidized their things so much. And when he lands his things here, he's 25% cheaper than my most efficient way of production. And my most efficient way of production has limited support from government. If we had saved this 10 billion, Joe, can you imagine what we would have done in this country? Provided we don't turn it into another partisan political thing that we see in some of these funds, venture capital, exams and things. And we focus on supporting the industry. Look at Nigeria, what they've achieved.
And the Ghanaian supervision.
You see, that tells you the sickness in our country. No meritocracy. Are we saying we didn't see this man in this country? We didn't see this man in this country, but somebody saw him. So now that we have seen that somebody saw him, let's try and see him. I beg you.
If he himself wants to bring himself,
I mean, if we had this orientation sitting at the Ministry of Agric, this agric sector will not be what it has been. You understand? So there's very weak coordination in the entire structure. Nigeria, the increase. I used to trade in Nigeria. I used to trade cement. The increased duties on the industries they really wanted to drive by 100%. Okay, then they gave import quotas. Then they'll give you. So Dangote, because he was producing, he was giving a license. They are the clients who had $1 billion in assets that we used to manage. All right. And then he also had started something. So he also gets a quota. They'll check out the measure of productivity you are generating before they start also managing your quota. So what we should be doing about rice? That rice is a staple. Second most consumed product. We should be increasing our duty properly. Stop Indians and Lebanese and whoever who are not investing in our country from getting any authorizations to import anything, irrespective of any campaign money they've given you. Forget. Give it to the people who are investing in trying to get rice in this country. You heard it last time during Koku's interview. We have more riceable land than cocoa land. And we are sitting here. We are concert. All these things must stop. Look for the people who are investing and say, I'll give you the import quota. We'll also give you this import quota so that you can make some money too on the other side. And then you have production targets. That if you're allowing you to bring in 100,000 tons for this year, you must make sure that by the next year, your investment is moving and your production, local production is also going up by 100%. 100 metric tons. So that the next year we are lowering down. If you don't meet the target and your investment locally is not working, forget it. We take the quota from you. Because we start trading benefits with productivity in our country. Something we don't do. The kind of contracts that we give people plenty, huge, triple, quadruple prices. If government even sits down and say, look, what to sustain our country on a long-term basis is agriculture. Or it is a certain kind of extractive sector. We need to add value to this. So when I'm giving you an easy contract today, the condition for you is that we want to see a proper investment in here. So when you make money from something here, which may be baller, you understand? We need you to make an investment in the agri sector of this tune. We need to write the report of our own people. We have 70% of our youth either unemployed or underemployed. And we think that we are running a country. When we are running it soundly, we are sitting on a time bomb. We need to create opportunities and give hope to the lives of these people.
Right. Senor, I hear you. I'll come back to you on something because when we return from the commercial break, because you're producing the rice, you want to produce the rice as well, but there's consumer behavior as well to consider. And in terms of taste,
you know, don't debate that one.
I'm not debating
rice. I'll bring you rice today.
No, I eat. I do eat Ghana rice.
Not Ghana rice. Don't worry. I'll bring you. We'll do round the rice contest in this. Let's do it on Monday. Yes, let's do it on Monday. Right?
Well, you have to do it on a national level.
No, I said don't worry. No. Hold on.
You might have to do this on a national level.
Fix my rice is called Gogo rice, and we have mommy rice. I'll fix Gogo rice for you. We'll fix Gino and whatever Nino, whatever Kino, whatever it is. We'll fix it and we'll do a blind taste. I'll give you jollof, I'll give you plain rice. We'll do a blind taste. And you come and tell me which rice you eat. Me, I'm a rice man, even though I was growing rice.
You can
tell me. I eat it, man. Now I can't eat it again.
I will be interested in hearing the strategy, though, on a national level rather than on an individual
more
level.
Education.
So we'll take a quick break. When we return, I'll hear Franklin on this. I'll hear Alex as well on this. And then I'll ask Senor my question on how they intend to change consumers' perception, basically, that the Ghana rice is not tasty, because that might be the biggest hurdle once government goes through this particular concession. We'll be right back.
I would love to move into my new apartment. In fact, this year, I would love to spend my money only on quality stuff. I will love. Well, this AFCON 22, Toshiba has a promo for us with 1,999 Ghana cedis. We will simply buy a Toshiba twin-tub washing machine and Amma will wash everything. Tubs load inverter, which is now going for 3,299. That food is straight from a Toshiba microwave solo, going for only 449 Ghana cedis. Top mount Toshiba fridge, they've dropped the price to 2,599. Oh, I love Toshiba! The prices are cool and still the Japanese high-quality brands. Get quality. Get Toshiba.
The entire world took a break, and so did we. But after a year of uncertainty and dealing with a pandemic, it's time for us to have some excitement and some adventure. The biggest and most exciting road trip of a lifetime, the Heritage Caravan, is back with a bang. In the Heritage month of March, to experience the rich Ghanaian culture through the food, music, history, and dynamic traditions on this week-long trip. We are touring Ghana in the most epic way in 7 magical days. Join this adventurous, eye-opening, and exciting road trip from 5th to 12 March 2022. Pack your bags and get on the Heritage Caravan from Greater Accra to the Central, Western North, Ahafo, Bono East, Northern, Northeast, Upper East, Savannah, Ashanti, and the Eastern regions. Heritage Caravan will be nothing but fun, educative, refreshing, and remarkable. Rate 5,000 cedis for single occupancy and 4,000 cedis per head for double occupancy. Rate includes transportation, accommodation, breakfast and dinner, tour sites, and all special activities. Register now on www.citynewsroom.com or call 0205 973 973 for further enquiries. The Heritage Caravan is powered by City TV with support from 97.3 City FM and proudly sponsored by Hollard Ghana. Hollard Ghana, ensuring you, everyone, and everything you love. All COVID-19 protocols will be strictly observed.
Welcome back to the big issue. Franklin, let me come to you on this matter. I know ideologically you call yourself a libertarian, so I wonder how you find this conversation. Or you've become more nationalistic when it comes to these things?
Maybe I'm a libertarian and a free trader, but I'm also obviously in tune with, should I call it, facts and figures. I'm a bit ambivalent at this juncture because we haven't done the rigorous analysis to determine either way whether the policy was right or wrong.
Senor just showed you, at least gave you a sample of whether it was effective or not.
Well, I understand the data he put out, but you see, let's also be a bit cautious. In translating economic benefits, it's not only towards government revenue. I mean, presumably, if I'm a consumer and a rational one, I'm interested in the least cost of items. So the fact that the savings would have been transferred to me does not necessarily mean that those savings should go towards government. But I understand also that there's a need for policy coherence, which is why I side with Senor. If you are extending these, should I call them, for lack of a better term, subsidies to a section of the market, then it's important that you look at your own as well, without necessarily, wearing the cap of a local import substitution, should I call it, brigade. The fact of the matter really is that there's not been some coherence in all of this conversation, which is why I say that I think there's a need to have more data to determine whether let's take poultry for instance. I mean, there's a question about capacity, right? And there may be some industrialists or some manufacturers in this country. There may be some end users of poultry in this country who think that, look, even if you remove the benchmark, if you maintain the benchmark values the way they are right now, it's still going to hurt the ordinary consumer at the tail end. But there's also the very strong argument to be made that, look, economies must be thinking about some sort of self-sustenance. And it's important that if you are extending some largesse, or if you like, some support to a section of the market, then presumably you should be doing the same for your own as well. So for me, the conversation has always been this tense relation between local manufacturing versus some people who may have been subsidized from somewhere to come to bring goods into our market. As I said, I'm a bit ambivalent at this stage because I haven't done the rigorous data analysis. I'm not talking about the year-on-year receipts from the ports. Either way, yes, there's some loss of revenue. But you see, that loss of revenue can also be translated into savings for the ordinary consumer. Because, I mean, that's the way I look at it critically. So I think we need to continue having this serious conversation because until, like Senior said, until we've had a full set of the data, we need to do targeted, should I call it, let's take a look at almost all the big, should I say, areas that should either benefit or suffer from this policy and do the analysis. And this is why I think that the data from the ministry may also be useful. But I have to say one other thing.
Yes.
I think, clearly speaking, we really need to be coherent in our policy making. But at this juncture, I'm a little bit ambivalent, especially on the issues around local productive capacity and then the local cost of doing business as well. I think it's also very important that we take a look at that.
All right. So I'll give you a minute on that before I go to Alex.
I tell you, the imports are landing at about $628 per metric ton. So your 25 kg bag, that's if you really get 25 kg bag, is it's going to be about 100 cedis thereabout. How much are you paying for it, the imports? The margin for them is about 100%. So look, I don't think that there's been value. Prices have not gone down because of benchmark value. I mean, all that has happened with the benchmark value is value going to people's pockets. We have traded government income for profits for a small group of individuals, stimulating very little within the entire economic space. So if you want data about what the impact is, this is basic data. Check the rice you bought 25 kg, and then see how it runs. We'll be producing at about a little over $800 per metric ton on our side. I mean, locally. I mean, and it's really going to go up now. Now that fertilizer is going up, government has no clear policy on really even dealing with that. We are going to have some issues there.
Exactly.
The benchmark policy doesn't work. It doesn't work. You have to be selective because there are certain things that are useful in there that also stimulate production. When people bring in raw materials, they benefit from the benchmark value. When people bring in equipment, they benefit from the benchmark value. So you have to go inside and decide which one is going in and which one is going out. If you don't have the energy and time to do it, you have to just stop this thing because it's taking us nowhere collectively. But the data does not support any value being transferred to the consumer. What you've rather seen is value being taken out of the economy. So if somebody is making 100% margin, you think about it. A fair margin in this market should really be around 20% thereabout, and depends on which tail of the chain you are. But people are milking this country, and this orientation must stop. Some of us, we are Ghanaians. We don't have American passport. We don't have American anything.
That point is well made.
We'll still be here.
Let me hear Alex. Alex, yes. So you've heard John, obviously from the government side, promising that the suspension will become permanent once the engagement is complete. you've heard from Senor and him showing evidence from their side on the minimal impact of that policy in the first place in the 2 years that it ran. Your thoughts on these two situations?
Yes.
And then I come back to Senor on the big question of consumers.
I mean, my interest, Mr. Ten, here is purely on DRM.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes, my interest is in how much is coming to government coffers. So this is the angle every conversation I have around this I look at. But the first question you need to ask ourselves is what actually drove the implementation of the policy in the first place? Why is the first question. Then comes, if you're going to reverse, what has changed? And in between this is only evidence that will support whether we continue or discontinue. And I don't know if they have the data, that small sheet I shared with you, if they can put it up.
Fred, please help me.
I kind of look at the...
Okay, it's up.
You good. And to me, I like using my CDs from Senior's Dollar. Which and I put this raw data... I've put this raw data here to make it very easy for everybody to understand. So I use the 2018 as the base.
Of course.
And I look at how much is government gaining or losing since the introduction. And then you see, we introduced this in court in the second quarter of 2019, which was 4th of April. So actually the beginning of second quarter. By the end of the quarter, we lost by 16.7. It carries on to the third quarter, we lost by 21.53. By the end of 2019, government again lost 15.7. And then on aggregate, actually we lost compared to 2018, 12.7%. What does it tell us? So you just step back and ask, okay, the trade volumes that you were expecting to come at the port doesn't really seem to be coming. So the very people we were taxing are the same people we are giving the discount. I don't know if this is making sense.
Yeah.
Because the idea was we are going to stop smuggling by reducing the benchmark value, you're making the ports attractive, competitive for people to come in, or smugglers to use the more formal channels. But then this continuous reduction, straight away by looking at the data, will tell you that, okay, the very people you were actually capturing were the people that all we had. So with a continuous revenue decline, you don't need rocket science to tell you that you're actually giving the discount to the only people that we had. Exactly. So therefore, there's no justifiable reason at the first 3 quarters that it was going to increase. Now, I put the other one in deep red because that was the point of COVID. So maybe, I'm sure defenders will find a way to say, okay, because of COVID, our partners' doors were closed, we closed our own, so therefore the first and second quarter of 2020, again we had a dip. So you look at, we introduced the policy and 5 consecutive quarters, there was a massive dip from government revenues. Then comes, we start probably looking at, realizing something, 0.3. And then came 4.7 in the third quarter. So you put it all together, again, we lost by 2020 on aggregate by 10.67. So that's continuous 2 years lost in revenue. The only glimpse of hopes comes in 2021, when compared to the previous, compared to 2018, we had 3.36, 5.4, and then the very last quarter data available, which is up to September, we have 14.1. So to me,
the budget has the year-end value.
Okay. I wish I had gotten it before. Then we could have told whether we've lost or. But I mean, looking at this data, to me, as somebody interested in revenue, the first question I will ask is, why did we lose revenue so much in the beginning? Was it because maybe those we are trying to bring into the fold didn't trust, and finally, now they seem to appreciate the fact that the benchmark value probably has come to stay, and therefore let's forget about all smuggling and all dodgy deals. Now let's use the ports. So what actually accounts for the 5 consecutive increment? So here you have 5 consecutive reduction, 5 consecutive increment. I believe the only way we can answer this is for data. So now, is it the existing importers increasing volumes, or new importers now coming to the port because more or less it's now attractive? and it's more competitive. I believe that authorities should be able to interrogate data from the ports. And to me, it is not about what Senior will say because obviously he has a personal interest, or what Guta will say because they have personal interest. I do believe that it's not an issue of who is able to push the government more. On issue of domestic revenue being at hand, to me, that is where my interest is. Government need to sit back and realize that, okay, this is the data post-implementation, the first 5 quarters. And this is why we are having the new increment. If the new increment of the 5 consecutive increments is a reflection of policy change responses, then does it worth going back and reversing it? That's the question we need to ask. And if you reverse it, are we going to get the volumes? And here making the assumptions that the increment is based on trade volumes going up. So if we reverse it, is it going to positively impact on government revenue? I think these are critical questions we cannot do without. And I really don't know what my brother Senior has that he is able to say that it has, the benchmark value hasn't brought anything. I think that's a very strong statement.
Oh, so you see, so the question, you asked a good question. What was the objective? And you were talking DRM.
Yeah.
All right? So if you are looking DRM, that's the data. You look at the data, the dollar value of your revenue, because imports are benchmarked to the dollar. We change the value every day based on, so there's no other objective way to do it. If you look at it from the CD, you'll be misleading everybody. Because what you have put up there is suggesting a certain growth, which in real terms is negative. You have seen between, in 2018, you had $1.33 billion in revenue. In 2021, you ended the year with $1.16 billion. What kind of growth is that? But in the CD terms, you saw 6.6 billion at the end of 2021, and then you had 5.48 in 2018. All right. So yes, you see the CD between these 3 years, we have seen a certain measure of growth, but in real terms, no growth, because every value, import value that comes in is not in CD, it's in dollar.
I get it.
Then we have to convert it before we now apply the rate and the benchmark values are tied to dollar values. So if you want to do it, you have to look at what is the real value that government has realized.
Okay.
Then the next thing I was talking about, and why I say it hasn't brought us that good. I mean, the collective, the en masse policy. There are things, like I indicated, I mean, if we are selective about the benchmark policy, there will be benefits. But when you run it
in
aggregate as it's done, totally nothing. You talk about smuggling. Who has the smuggling data in this country in 2018? Who has the smuggling data in 2021? So if smuggling was that significant, you should have seen a major rise in revenue, even on the CD side. We didn't see it because we've dropped our benchmark, so our rates are low. Côte d'Ivoire charges 10%. All right, so those are some of the arguments. But we've forgotten that there's a certain logistical cost trying to smuggle things into this country. The security people who are supposed to be working for us, that we pay them, they have to collect their share before they enter. The people, smugglers will come. So you add everything, it's not just the 10% that is really hitting them. So if that demand was in this market and our benchmark values suppressed the smuggling, that demand should really reflect immediately. There's no logistical constraint, nothing, because that demand is already in this market, but it was just the route. We're all coming to CTFM, but I passed at Dabraka before coming. Another person passed Dansuma before coming. Either way, we know the number of people who are in CTFM. You understand?
Okay,
so the data is very clear on that. From a DRM perspective, you have to break it down for them. So for others, when you say DRM, people don't know where is Dorothy, Ruth, and Matthew. So, I mean, domestic revenue management, mobilization of management. Yeah, so that's what we mean by DRM here. The DRM situation has not improved in any shape or form. It has rather retrogressed.
Okay.
We are actually at, if you look at it in real terms, from 2018, we have where we stand now. We are somewhere between where we were in 2016 and in the middle of 2016 and 2017. That's where we are.
Right.
Okay, so yes, I was making a point that you see, I think maybe I'll go back to the figures and again adjust with the dollar, changing the dollar value. Because, for example, I look at the Q3 of 2021, and you had, compared to 2018, 14.1 increment. I would have loved to see from Q3 2018 to Q3 2021 what has been the dollar in terms of the exchange rate differentials. But anyway, I wouldn't come there now.
But you know, our revenue is reported annually.
Yes.
So, and I was a trader. I used to sell rice. I used to sell tuna. I mean, imported stuff. I used to work out. I used to marketing money. So, there are different patterns every quarter, and you don't have them replicated every time. I take your COVID window.
Yeah.
It's very reflective of the situation. But as gates opened, just like you saw in the US, demand that had been heated up over the period of lockdown actually shot up, and the same thing happened in petroleum. So the patterns at the end of the day may always shift, and it's immaterial. At the end of the year, we should be able to see whatever pattern even out, and then let's see.
All right, let me ask.
So the FX, you have to also use the FX.
So then that comes to me. The first question I asked is, what is the major objective for the reduction, and why are we reversing it? You see, it has been like AGI Guta. To me, if it's no Guta strength, I don't think we'll be having this conversation. And the question sometimes that boggles my mind is that when the benchmark value was reduced to 50%, sliced to 50%, I don't think somebody woke up in the next morning and then we saw prices of rice,
nothing went down.
Those items coming down. So, and I remember I had a very heated debate with the president in TV3 not long ago because nobody witnessed that. But now there's a threat that the moment you reverse it, prices are going to shoot. So it raises another question. But one thing I believe government can do, to me, is number one, we don't need to look at this on the wholesale. It should be item by item. Which items do we have the capacity to produce? Because if you don't have the capacity, and then we reverse this, what is the immediate implication? When we have the capacity, obviously there's one district, one factory, government's flagship programs. If companies or organizations are doing well, that needs to be supported. So should it be. We need to, I support protectionism, but I also do believe that we need to do so carefully without creating an environment where just few producers who potentially might not meet the capacity, and therefore who is going to suffer the end is going to
well made for me. John wanted to say something.
Yes. Just to add values
I want to ask that question.
To the discussions that is ongoing as to how much is Ghana losing. And it's about 200 million cedis every month on these benchmark values. Okay.
200 million cedis
every month.
Every month. 10.2 billion between now and now.
And that is only in respect of revenues. And I think we lose double of that in terms of cost to the local industry, in terms of its development and job creation, because you render local companies uncompetitive. And so the question has been asked, what was the objective? The objective at the time, like we have all stated, was to see how we could bring relief to importers and then increase volumes of importation into the country with the hope that because of the high prices, they were smuggling. But the data doesn't show so. So clearly, after a review of the policy, it is time to reverse it. And I can assure you, government will do the needful very, very soon.
Okay. Senor, so the question he asked is the question I also wanted an answer to.
The first thing you have to realize, for quality, it's a function of process
and access.
Controls. Yeah, and access. It's a function of process controls, which often are effectively coordinated by governments. You go to Thailand, they take given areas. There's a target on how many hectares of land should be committed to rice. You go to a given area, there's a particular kind of quality that is supposed to be planted everywhere, so that all the mills taking things out of that place will be able to come up with a certain standard quality. That's why if you take alcohol, drinks like cognac, they come from they are grapes coming from a given region. So you can't have cognac anywhere. It's a brandy. But cognac only comes from the cognac region.
But that is a deliberate policy effort to sustain quality standards and meet consumer expectations. Do we have it here? No. So these are things that we as producers, looking at the market targets that we have, keep investing in. And it's very difficult. That's why I'm saying that, look, you see, the same government that's crashing you is the one responsible for creating the enabling structure for these sectors to thrive. They are not doing it. That's why I said last time on Joy FM, I don't think this country has an agric minister. I don't think so. I don't think he's committed and serious enough to really deliver the development that the sector needs at all. If we do, we should have clear structures.
Minister. His name is Dr. Akoto.
He's a player in the market. He doesn't feel the presence.
Where I am, I know that you have appointed somebody. Yeah, you have appointed person. Yeah.
An answer to the
question. As I sit here, I know I have a deputy finance minister because assembly question on Nama Odi Huye or come we. Have you heard the agric minister talking to you this week?
He spoke at a presser.
Okay, that's fine. No,
you should ask his for his slides.
I don't. The Ministry of Agri's data is one of the most unreliable. If we go and farm with that data, I'm telling you, talk to any farmer. It's one of the most unreliable. I built a business around their model. My first attempt at Agric, Ankoye, as my friend would say, Ankoye Lapa. So please, we know what we are saying. We are the people on the ground. We have no coordinated structure to really transform this particular sector. All of us are just struggling and trying to get ourselves together. Even that, we have about 1 million metric ton capacity in this country. Yes. And optimization, low. About 600,000 metric tons is what we are seeing from the data that they give. Even our people sometimes question the data. The key thing with farming is simple. Yeah, the key thing with farming is that the paddy has to be produced. The raw material has to be produced. The equipment to process it must be there. True of us.
Yes.
Now, the same farmers who do the rice are the same farmers who can do the maize. The same ones who may do soybean. They look for where the money is. They look for where the stability is. Yes. The people are rational beings just like you and me. Are those acreages available in this country? Absolutely. You've been told that we have more riceable acreage than even cocoa acreage. So that is not a question. Now, do we have equipment milling capacity in this country? My brother, go and see what Avinash has done in the north.
Yes.
Because of them, they triggered a certain economic activity in that area. But go there, 11,000 metric tons of paddy, and they can't process because they have to compete with benchmark people. Think about it.
Okay.
So you see, I have to invest in my milling capacity right now. I have invested in a 3,000 metric ton silo. We have to support it with a bigger milling capacity. Which bank is going to give me money when they are seeing this benchmark risk? And ask him. The president came to my farm. In fact, I think I'm one of the luckiest people. I had president and 6 cabinet ministers
on your farm.
Oh yeah. And they came to collect funds. Yes. They left the place with commitments that we're going to get support from Exim. We are sitting here. 10 peswa, 0. You understand? And me, I want to make more investment because government was coming. We're really going to transform the sector. We move it is right. We are left on our own. So if we are left on our own, the least you will do is don't come and spoil
the thing for me.
Because we are already suffering.
Senor Osi, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Senor Osi. I've run out of time. And a big thank you to John Kumars, Deputy Finance Minister, Member of Parliament,
to give up.
For
just still on the way.
He spent his entire morning with me. Senor, okay. And Dr. Alex Amfabe Franklin, Kujo President of Wadi Africa. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Big Issue. My name is Dr. Have a great weekend.